Pete, you wrote an interesting story about an effort to keep an eye on AI in transportation. What's going on?
There's a research group within the Department of Transportation that is starting to kind of tackle AI's kind of emergence in transportation in various modes and what that means for potential benefits, what the risks are right now. So, kind of a new effort underway.
Why is it so important?
It's an important effort because it's really one of the first looks from a federal level at how AI's risks and rewards play out, not just in ground transportation, but in aviation, in all sorts of transportation modes right now. So it's really a look at AI across the transportation spectrum, irrespective of modes. So it's a fledgling initiative.
Well, and it's AI's use in transportation seems like it's spreading really fast.
It is. Obviously, for a lot of years now, we've had real world deployments of self driving vehicles, but now the potential and promise is growing so quickly. But as we know, AI is not perfect, and there's a lot of variability, or can be a lot of variability, depending on how models are trained on what the output is. And then sometimes it's hard to understand why the output is what it is. And that's what the DOT's highly automated systems safety center of excellence, and that is a mouthful, but we'll call it the HOS Center. That's what they're looking at right now, is how to assure that safe outcomes emerge in these safety critical applications.
And also, and I guess to understand them when maybe they don't go right because there's not a lot of transparency in the way these computers think.
That's right. Machine learning algorithms are kind of notoriously hard to decipher in terms of why they produce the result that they do. A lot of people refer to it as a black box because you don't know what the secret sauce going on inside, so to say. It is how it comes out the way it does, and that makes that fraught with concerns in the transportation space. But its potential to help with airspace and collision avoidance technology, both in the ground and on the air, is undeniable. So there's a lot of promise here in these systems, but just kind of really an effort to understand how we assure that they're safe.
So, how did the HOS Center get started?
The HOS Center was congressionally mandated in 2020 by a congressional act. And since then, they've kind of been formulating their plans, adding staff. I think they're up to 17 members right now, a lot of whom have private sector experience in aviation and automotive. And the HOS Center's main charge is to really look at automation and systems developing that have the potential to make major impacts across modes of transportation, not just looking at it from one particular silo or the other.
Is the HOS Center supposed to effectively like craft rules on how AI can be used in vehicles?
The HOS Center is not regulatory in nature, nor is there work on this particular working group that's looking at AI assurance. They're really kind of just wrapping their arms around some of these questions and convening consensus and groups to kind of understand what maybe someday the rules look like. Right now, they're kind of looking at more benchmarks and metrics and assuring, what are the statistics that kind of might drive this someday? What are the benchmarks? But they are, really here to offer support, guidance to primarily to regulators, but they're also working with industry, with academia to kind of harness their knowledge as well.
It seems like if Congress or an arm of the executive branch were to make rules, it would be helpful for them to tap into the knowledge that the center is gathering.
Yes, someday that may very well be the case. And it's probably also important to note that a lot of the different offices within the DOT, like the FAA and NHTSA, they have their own independent initiatives on AI underway. But what the HOS Center does is really ensure that this is not a siloed thing, that all modes are talking to each other, establishing best practices, and kind of making sure everybody's on the same page, and kind of establishing some of those kind of basic benchmarks that have some commonalities.
You kind of touched on this, but it really is for use across modes of transportation, not just for cars.
It is. That's one of the things that I found interesting here was that it's a cross mode initiative, and that's what this HOS Center does as well on different projects besides AI assurance. Is really kind of ensure that there's best practices and knowledge sharing on advanced technologies that goes from cars to aviation, from aviation to cars, rail, etc. It's not it's mode agnostic, you might say.
And when you're talking about transportation, I mean, the stakes are pretty high. It's not just a convenience matter like suggestions from an algorithm.
Certainly transportation's life and death. And we've already seen that play out in the automated driving space with the Uber fatality in 2018, the serious cruise injury crash that was just in October. And of course, any number of Tesla autopilot crashes that have occurred over the years where, machine learning algorithms are at play in path planning or perception, et cetera.
Did you have anything else you wanted to hit or any other story you wanted to tell?
The big picture here is this is one small plank of a White House initiative to establish best practices and safeguards on AI. And it's not just the US that's kind of grappling with these problems. There was just a research paper released earlier this month related to work going on in Europe that's identifying the same challenges and working to establish practical safeguards and benefits for AI's use in transportation. That research paper just came out of the University of Warwick within the last 2 weeks. So you can see global efforts afoot to kind of tackle AI and ensure that it's safe and assess risks and make this a beneficial part to transportation.